Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Chad Hank, Marketing Director for Explore International. On behalf of Explore and Datalogics, I'd like to welcome you to today's broadcast of Leaner, Cleaner PDFs, how to optimize your PDFs for a more streamlined workflow. Our speaker today, Joseph Argento, Senior Software Engineer at Datalogics. Before we begin, I do want to share a few tips with you. As an attendee, you should see an attendee control panel, which can be expanded or collapsed by clicking the plus or minus on the left side of each pane. You can use the question and answer feature to send your text questions to me, and I'll queue those up and we'll ask Joe at the end. You can also click the square to toggle the viewer window between full screen and window mode. At some point in this presentation, we will also be trying to poll the audience, so you're going to use that same question and answer feature to send your responses to me as well during the presentation. So please be familiar with that, so that way we can get that information on over to Joe and get a good consensus going. As usual, we are recording this webinar, and you will receive a link to view in 3 to 5 business days from the Datalogics team. I would like to note that all data and information provided in this webinar and expressed by the presenters is for informational purposes only. Explore International makes no representations as to accuracy, completeness, suitability, or validity of any information. At this time, I'd like to introduce Joe. Joe, the show is yours.
All right. Hello, everyone. So today we're going to be talking about what we like to call how to make your PDFs smaller, or leaner, cleaner PDFs, how to optimize them for a more streamlined workflow. So a little bit about myself. My name is Joseph Argento, Senior Software Engineer at Datalogics, and I've worked with PDF and PDF development for just over a decade now. And here at Datalogics, I work on several different products, such as the Adobe PDF library, such as PDF to image, PDF optimizer, PDF checker, flip to PDF, PDF converter, PDF Adobe normalizer. And I also work to help resolve customer cases that are presented to us to help get them past their roadblocks and to help them understand technical aspects of their PDF applications. So a bit about the company. We've been around for just over half a century at Datalogics, and we're located in Chicago, Illinois, in the United States, and we are the exclusive provider of the genuine Adobe PDF toolkits, like the PDF library, like PDF converter. And this is something we've been doing for working with genuine Adobe technology for 20+ years. And we're actually extremely active in the PDF community at large. For example, we're a member of the PDF Association. So briefly, what we're going to cover in this presentation, sort of as an overview, is we'll cover common potential pitfalls and problems. We'll talk about what's in a PDF in general, what to be aware of with some so-called optimizer tools that exist for PDF, and we'll talk about the problem that we like to call bloated PDFs, and we'll explain later what that means, saying bloated PDFs. And in general, we'll talk about what features you should be looking for in good quality PDF optimization software. And we'll also have a brief demonstration of PDF Optimizer, what it looks like, how to use it. So to get started, we're going to talk about common potential problems that one can run into in this space. So you're probably familiar with PDF. The average user is familiar with them, and maybe you're familiar with them on a more deeper technical level. Well, the PDF format itself is a very large, complicated format. It's vast in terms of the number of features that are packed into it, and luckily it's an open format. There exist today hundreds, if not thousands, of different PDF processors, and many of them have been written at different points in history Some have been spawned off from each other, from one another. Some have been written from scratch in different languages. So it's easy to see how your results may vary as you go from one piece of PDF software to another. So those are some of the challenges with the PDF format itself. So if we talk about a PDF, it's a container of different objects, but what's in a PDF? Well, there are things like images, fonts, forms, embedded thumbnails. Those are just a few of the things that are in a PDF. And when we get into the idea of a bloated PDF, there can be things like images that, let's say, they aren't compressed, or perhaps you have images that are compressed, but they're not compressed as good as they could be. Maybe there's fonts that are completely embedded inside the PDF, and maybe there's fonts that are embedded and they're duplicated, so they're embedded multiple times. And there's an older concept of embedded thumbnails, which is not really needed anymore in today's modern PDF software. And concretely, let's take an example. Let's say you have a 100,000 page document. And when I say document, I'll use that term sort of interchangeably with a PDF. So you have a 100,000 page document with virtually millions of images and forms throughout it. Well, let's say you take your PDF software and you extract the first 10 pages of interest to you and save that out as a new PDF. Well, depending on the PDF software that you're actually using, those millions of images and forms that we spoke about, maybe they all came along for the ride in creating the new document. So despite those first 10 pages, maybe only having a small set, maybe a few images and forms, every single image, every single form still exists in that small extracted PDF. So you can sort of see how that might be a problem. Now there's an old adage, and it's very true in the space of PDF, that you simply get what you pay for. There's been a trend in recent years among software developers, a push towards open source free solutions. Well, because, if it's free, that's wonderful. But the problem with that is sometimes people don't do their research. They simply grab a tool that's free without understanding how well it works, what are its downfalls and pitfalls. And what a lot of people don't really realize is that a lot of open source software is let's call it the brainchild of a hobbyist, of an enthusiast. Maybe it was a college student in their senior year as a research project, and they decided it was so wonderful they'd open it up to the world. And maybe there are some people along the way who've contributed, but you're not dealing typically with software that's geared towards commercial use. And maybe you run into a problem. Maybe you have an enterprise level product that's dependent upon one of these open software offerings, and let's say you encounter a crash, and your developer works really hard and they figure out where the crash is, and they say, okay, it's in this third-party software we're using that's open source. Well, what can you do? Maybe the best you can do is ask your question to if you can find them, the original author, and say, maybe out of the kindness of your heart, you can fix this for us when you have time. It's critical. Our users are complaining. Well, good luck with that. What you want is a company that will stand behind its products and offer you support. So what I'd like to talk about now briefly is some of the so-called optimization tools that exist. You have to be careful. And why do you have to be careful? Well, there can be lots of different problems that can occur. You can have corrupted PDFs. It creates a PDF that you can no longer open. You can have PDFs that, despite it being a optimization tool that's supposed to create a streamlined, optimized PDF, it actually becomes larger than the original input PDF. There can simply be missed opportunities. Maybe you handed a file and because of limitations of time and resources and understanding of the PDF format, for whatever reason, they decide they can't do a single thing with it, even though it's a very bloated PDF that could benefit from different things you can do in optimization. You can have inaccurate or simply incorrect PDF output, and I'll circle back to that one in a moment. And you can also have inaccurate color space representations or conversions. PDF supports several different ways of representing color, and some of the more complex ones aren't well understood, and they aren't all supported in different PDF software. And sometimes if there's content within a document that the software does not understand, maybe they'll just drop it. Maybe you have a JPEG-2 image on the page, and because that compression typically requires a commercial solution, maybe the open source software can't handle it, and it simply drops it off to deal with it, and now you've lost that image forever. So circling back to inaccurate PDF output, let's say you're in the healthcare space, and let's say you have patients who they have to sign an authorization of release of confidential information before they can be seen by the doctor. And they have to sign a piece of paper or a form, which let's say gets scanned in and as a PDF, and that signature is an image. And you pass it through an optimizer tool that just obliterates the image, and that signature is no longer readable. And it's obliterated in the name of trying to save space. So they've saved space, but they've ruined the signature. All you can see is little scratch marks of the original signature. Well, now you're in a pickle, because legally, if you were to say, as a healthcare provider, have a malpractice lawsuit brought against you, you can no longer tell a judge, for example, here's proof that we actually had the patient's authorization, because they'll look at it and they'll say, I can't read that. That's not a legible signature. Well, your software took the signature away, and now you're really stuck. So here, when it comes to PDF, and when it comes to PDF optimization, the do-it-yourself route is not really the best option. As we talked about before, the PDF format is quite complex, and support between vendors is going to vary dramatically. So it's estimated that to write your own, let's say, subset of just some of the desired functionality of a good PDF optimizer, just a subset, would take in terms of several man-years of effort. And if you were interested in the entire feature set of a good PDF optimizer, you're talking about decades. That's S with a plural in terms of effort. And there's no real-world company that's not focused on free solutions. They're looking to make money, they're looking to become profitable, and they cannot afford to hire a team of developers to spend decades of effort understanding something like PDF and optimization. They need a solution. They need it as soon as possible. So as I said before, we're talking about bloated PDFs. So what do I mean by bloated? Well, what I mean is that the PDF contains lots of content that's going to slow it down in terms of processing. That doesn't necessarily have to be there. It could be optimized in different ways, so it's not quite as bloated, not quite as large in size. And when you have these bloated PDFs, what can it do? Well, as I said, it can slow down processing speed, for example, of a PDF viewer. It's going to impact your different workflows. Let's say you're doing conversions. Let's say you're doing PDF printing, editing, document processing. All of these different workflows can be severely impacted by bloated PDFs. And in terms of different PDF software, sometimes when encountering a bloated PDF, it may hang, it may crash. Let's say it hangs. Well, maybe it's not a true hang. Maybe after 7 hours it will finally complete. But in the real world, no user is going to stick around for 7 hours to see if it comes back to life and now can continue processing documents. So what this leads to typically is end user frustration, where they file bug reports against your software. They say, your software is no good. It's creating PDFs that all of my users say take forever to load, cause my PDF viewer to crash. Your software is incompatible with what we come to expect for a good quality PDF software. So now that we've talked about these bloated PDFs, and we're trying to tell you about what you can do to achieve a cleaner PDF that's no longer bloated. Well, a really good point that we think you need to start with is to start using quality software from a vendor that's closely tied to the PDF community, and that's going to actually stand behind the products that it provides and provide support for those products. So when you're talking about PDF optimization software, some of the key things that you would be looking for would be things like file compression, the ability to compress the different parts, the ability to reduce the bloated things, the things that are too numerous, too much duplication, don't necessarily have to be there. You want something also that's reliable, that you can depend on, that's not going to crash if you throw different things at it. You also want something that can offer you what's known as PDF-A support. PDF-A is the archival format which draws on the PDF specification and has its own specifications, and it's for long-term preservation of documents. So say 100 years from now, you can open a PDF-A document and it will look visually the same as the document does today, and you don't have to worry about what PDF software is being used at the time, that you can count on the representation visually to be correct in the future. Another key thing is color conversion, meaning that when you do need to convert colors, that's done using true embedded color management. So you don't have something where you get washed out colors converting from one color space to another, like say CMYK to RGB. And you want something that's configurable so you can customize it towards your own set of goals for optimization. Let's say you have one set of standards you'd like to use for documents that are destined for mobile viewing on phones, and you have a different set of standards that you'd like to use towards more traditional desktop viewing. You want the software to also have the ability to deal with bulk processing, batch processing, where you can easily automate it to handle, say you have a folder with 10 million documents on a server somewhere and taking up terabytes of storage, and no one can comb through those files manually running such software. It would be a large waste of time. So you want a tool that's easy to write, to go over all of those said files. And also, you want simply something that's easy to use. You don't want to have to learn the PDF format. You don't want to have to deal with the intricacies and problems of PDF and PDF optimization. So now we have an interesting question for those of you on the line. We'd like to know, out of those things that I covered, which of them is most important to you, such as, like we just talked about, PDF-A, batch processing, configurability, color conversion, reduction of bloat, compression, and being easy to use. We would like to know which of these is most important to you, and I think Chad will instruct you all on the line about a means of letting us know which of these is important to you.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. I see there's a lot of people listening in. If you could just swap back into the attendee pane, you can use that question and answer feature that you normally ask the questions to. And if you would, just shoot me a note real quick about which one of these is the most important to you, and we can kind of get a general consensus of that information, so that way I can pass it along to Joe. All right, color conversion, file compression, reducing bloat, bulk processing, reduce bloat, bloat. So it looks like bloat, compression, bulk processing. Wow, they are coming in faster than I can read them right now. Thank you all for participating. Keep them coming, keep them coming. Bulk, pretty much everything. That's a nice general one there. Yeah, so it looks like I'm seeing a lot of bulk processing, Joe, and I'm seeing a lot of compression. And looks like color conversion is the next one as well. So nobody for easy to use, nobody for reliability, PDFA support. All of them are important but configurable, and batch processing, somebody said as well. Any last second ones? Okay. Somebody actually asked how reducing bloat differs from file compression. Joe, if you could explain that again.
Okay. So I'll briefly answer that. So when we're talking about compression, in this case, what we're referring to really is, say, for example, you can apply different compression filters to images within a PDF, for example, but another way to reduce bloat would be, say, your document is littered with duplicated fonts that don't have to be there. You can reduce bloat by removing those duplicated fonts, merging them into common fonts so they don't have to be repeated, and that would be a way of reducing bloat without necessarily relying on compression.
All right. Thank you for that. Yeah, so it looks like, according to this, like I said, bulk processing, compression, and a little bit of color conversion. That seems to be where we're lying at right now. So.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for letting us know. All right. So, moving on. Where can you find a tool to help you with this optimization? Well, luckily, Datalogics offers the PDF optimizer for such optimization needs. So if you look at the orange box here, here's a simple example of how you would be calling the tool, the PDF optimizer executable. So here, we're specifying as an option, we'll call it myreport.pdf. That's your input document. And then here, we're specifying a profile. This is where you can specify your optimization settings that you can customize to your needs. We ship 2 standard profiles with the optimizer tool, and they're in the JSON format. So we're going to specify the standard one here. And lastly, we're going to specify our output file. We'll simply call it optimize.pdf. So you've got an input, you've got a JSON profile of options, and you've got an output. And then all you have to do is run it. And also you can see on the screen here, we've got a URL for downloading a free trial of PDF Optimizer. And an important thing to mention here is that PDF Optimizer is available in 64-bit for both Windows and Linux. And now I'd like to talk briefly about another tool that we offer, and this one is actually free. It's called PDF Checker, and it's got a nice crossover with PDF Optimizer. Both of them were built and based on the Adobe PDF library. Both tools are ideal for using in automated workflows, so batch processing, bulk processing. As we mentioned, PDF Optimizer is for optimizing files for things like compatibility, file size, of course, and long-term preservation, for example, with PDFA. And it's got real color management. And what PDF Checker is going to do is it's going to check or validate your PDF to look for potential problems, direct problems that it finds, and potential warnings, something that could become a problem when the PDF is in use. So the idea here is that you would use Checker to find problems, and then you can drive PDF Optimizer to fix those problems. If you want more fine-grained control, so you can use one of those JSON profiles to say, based on these characteristics, we'd like to drive optimization in a slightly different fashion, which is easy to do because of this nice crossover that we have between the products. PDF Optimizer is built with, as I said, Adobe genuine technology. So to explain this in more depth, Adobe has various libraries such as the Adobe Color Engine, the Adobe Font Engine, and these common libraries are what underlie products like Adobe InDesign, Illustrator, Adobe Photoshop, and most importantly, Adobe Acrobat. A bit about Adobe Acrobat. It is we'll call it the golden standard when it comes to PDF. It's what sets the standard for expected behavior when it comes to pretty much all things PDF. Now, Acrobat is an extremely vast tool that does many, many different things with PDF. But at its core, what Adobe Acrobat is doing is it's relying on the Adobe PDF library and different libraries that we've talked about here to do the heavy lifting pretty much when it comes to all things PDF, whether that be opening, saving, optimization, color conversion, flattening of transparency, or even pre-flighting. At some level, the Adobe PDF library is being relied upon to do all of these things. So, from virtually anything that you can do with Adobe Acrobat, you're going to require the Adobe PDF library, which means that PDF Optimizer was written with the tool that's the primary workhorse behind Adobe Acrobat. We've got interfaces for C and C++, for the .NET framework, and for Java. And the PDF library itself works on Windows, Linux, Mac, and different varieties of Unix. So a bit more about PDF Optimizer. We offer the ability to output to the PDFA standard for long-term preservation, as we mentioned before. We offer genuine transparency flattening. So we're not doing some kind of thing where you use a print driver to try to make transparency disappear from a PDF. We're actually flattening the components of a document that contain elements of transparency. Also, we've got precise color management for dealing with color spaces correctly and for dealing with converting color. Besides image compression, we also offer the ability to downsample images. And when you downsample them, you can also save a great deal of information. And when you do that, you can do that with the trade-off of losing a small bit of information while maintaining good visual quality that is no different when looked at with the human naked eye. And as I said, we've got customizable settings for different target profiles. So for example, if you're on mobile or versus desktop, you can tweak the optimizer parameters to your liking. So now what I'd like to do is I'd like to do a small, short demonstration of PDF Optimizer and PDF Checker. So what I have on the screen here on the left side is, this is a Windows command prompt. And I've taken the liberty of pre-loading this with, I'm sitting in the directory where PDF Optimizer is installed, and I'm going to run the program where I'm specifying the input as a file name to optimize.pdf. And if we look over here on our right, here's to optimize PDF. And if I open this file, what you're going to see is you're going to see a 14-page PDF document. We can see an image on page 1, and we can see different images throughout the document, and we can also see text. So this is just to give you an idea of the flavor of the kind of document that we're opening. So I'll close that now, and what I'd like to show you is let's take a look a little deeper at the file, and let's see, okay, this file is just over 3 megabytes in size. So I'm going to run this using the standard JSON profile that we ship with the product to control our optimization settings. And I'm going to specify an output name called optimized_now.pdf. Let's run that. So here's our optimized now PDF. So let's take a look at it. It's 465 kilobytes. So we went from just over 3 megabytes now down to less than half of 1 megabyte. And if we take a look at the file, we can see our images. We can see our text. So this is the same file. However, this file has now been optimized. So it's literally that simple. You don't have to know anything about programming to use this tool. So now what I'd like to do is I'm going to change directories to, I'm going to go up to the PDF checker directory. So I'll go up to PDF checker. And what I'd like to do now is I'd like to run PDF checker. And I've got this preloaded. And now let's look over here on the right at the PDF checker folder. And I'm going to specify an input again. That's our to optimize file. A profile, which is the profile that we ship with the product. It's called everything.json. And the output is report.txt. So we'll run that, and then we'll open this file. Now, I won't cover this in depth, but briefly at the top, you've got some information about what checker analyzed, what profile checker used, and you've got a high-level summary. Now, if I scroll through this, you can see we're checking lots of different things: annotations, metadata, private data, transparency. So this is going to give you a detailed report that's easily machine readable. And what we found is that this document contains metadata, which may be something you don't want. And under the category of cleanup, we've identified it has suboptimal compression, so it can be compressed better. And we found some images that have low resolution. So the reason why low resolution may be important to you is if you're interested in doing optical character recognition, known as OCR, and your images have low resolution, the OCR results may be quite poor. So that's an important thing to be aware of for your PDF document. So that was how you would use PDF Optimizer and use PDF Checker in a manual setting, just to give you an idea of how simple it is to use and to drive. So now what we're going to show is a standard test file known as the Altona Test Suite. And this is given out by an organization that is intended to provide users with a way of validating that their products work for viewing, printing, etc. So here's an image on the page, and we can see it's a photograph with a little color palette. So when we run this through PDF Optimizer, here's our result. So you can see here that the image looks to be the same image. So that's good. But on the right, this has been optimized by a different tool. So what we see here in the upper right is this blue square. Well, that seems to come out of left field. That's just an error. That blue square isn't supposed to be there. And if we look at this color palette, if you look at the upper left, it's more of a bright tone orange. But then we look at the result, it seems to have become dim. And throughout the color palette, the colors have changed. So we've lost some of the fidelity of this original image by using a different tool for optimization. And this is the full page of the document, the full document, and what we see in the upper right corner is that same image. So this is the same document, and this is to give you a view of the entire page. Now, the file is almost 12 megabytes, it's 11.6. And when we optimize it with PDF Optimizer, we reduce the size down to just under 2.5 megabytes, which means a decreased file size of 79%. So you've reduced the file by nearly 80% by using PDF Optimizer. So Datalogics as a whole provides a wide array of tools. We've talked about the Adobe PDF library. We also have a pure Java toolkit that's available. And this is for whether it's your traditional implementation of a software development kit or of a library, or for software as a service. And we've got several other easy-to-use scriptable server tools. PDF Alchemist is a product that deals with extracting data out of a PDF, getting information out of a PDF and making sense of it. We've talked about PDF Optimizer and PDF Checker. PDF to print is a way of driving in a non-attended manner, so you don't have to interact with the printer. You can customize settings to control printing of PDFs. We've also got some technology for Adobe Acrobat Reader extension and for dealing with forms. And then we have a product called Flip to PDF. What this does is it converts Microsoft Office documents like Word, Excel, PowerPoint to PDF. It also converts the standard image formats like TIFF, JPEG, PNG to PDF, and it converts PostScript and encapsulated PostScript to PDF. And finally, PDF to image is a tool that basically does PDF rasterization, which allows you to rasterize the page of PDF and save it as one of the standard image formats like JPEG, PNG, TIFF. All of these products, for most of our technology, has free evaluations available at our website. The URL is listed here. And as I mentioned earlier, we're very active in the PDF community and the developer community at large, whether it be answering questions on Stack Overflow, presenting best practices on code project, being an active member of the PDF Association, or being on the board of Dev Network. So at this point, I'd like to thank you for listening to what I've had to say in this presentation, and I'll open this up to questions you have, and I'll turn this back over to Chad.
Sorry about that. I was on mute. Started talking. So essentially, let's see. We got a couple questions here. All right. First things first. How does the performance of your tool compare to Adobe's PDF Optimizer feature?
Okay. What we've found is that we've designed this to be done in such a way that it will either meet the performance and results of PDF Optimizer, the optimization available from Adobe Acrobat, or in many cases, it will actually exceed the results that you can get in terms of file savings, in terms of compatibility. So we either can do just as good as Acrobat, or we can beat them.
All right. Someone asked, is PDF Checker PC only, or is there a Mac version as well?
At the moment, our scriptable server tools are available on Windows and Linux for 64-bit. However, if you're interested in availability on another platform, we'd of course be interested in hearing more from you.
All right. can you compress using JPEG-2 and JPEG 2000 using the PDF optimizer?
Okay. The answer to that question is yes. And one reason why you might have asked that question is because typically JPEG-2 compression and JPEG 2000 require paid-for commercial solutions because they're formats that are a little bit more difficult than some of the more familiar image formats. So we have genuine Adobe technology for dealing with those image compression formats. So we do support both of those.
All right, this came up a couple of times actually during the presentation. Somebody actually mentioned it during the poll portion as well regarding accessibility, and then it was elaborated on and saying, just wondering if adding accessibility tag, if we can bring adding accessibility tags using any of these products.
Okay, so I think if I understand the question correctly, you're interested in making sure your documents are more accessible by adding some of the features from the PDF standard with regard to accessibility. Well, what I would say is that the Adobe PDF library allows one to manipulate PDF documents in terms, at a low level, in terms of virtually anything. So what one could do is, maybe I neglected to mention this during the presentation, but the technology, the optimization part that we have in the PDF Optimizer tool is available as an API in the Adobe PDF library. So one could use their development skills to leverage the PDF library to add such accessibility, and then they could rely on the same optimization technology to then optimize their document.
All right. Are there plans to have a GUI interface so that you can avoid using command lines at a command prompt?
Okay, so it sounds like you're interested in a graphical user interface version of this tool. And that's a very interesting idea, and we'd be interested in hearing more about that. And as an example, one could write their own application that would provide the graphical user interface that would allow one to drive the PDF optimization. So in the here and now, immediately, that wouldn't be a roadblock to implementing. But that's a great idea.
Oh, here's a great one right here. How much about programming do I need to know to use this tool? $1 million question.
Okay, to use this tool, one has to know virtually nothing about programming. It's very easy to use, whether you're an end user, a system admin, a developer, or someone without development experience. As long as you can point it towards something you'd like to optimize, tell it what you'd like it to output, drive it with some settings. It requires no understanding of high or low-level programming languages. It's easy to use in your favorite scripting environment. So you don't have to know anything about more traditional computer programming to use this tool, which is great.
All right, well, that is all I have. I don't have any other questions coming in. Let me double check. Nope, that was the last one I have. So why don't we go ahead, wrap up, give these beautiful people an extra 10, 15 minutes back in their lives for today. I know we're all pretty busy. So Joe, do you have any closing thoughts to wrap us up?
I would just like to thank everyone for attending and listening to the presentation today, and let us know if we can help.
All right, well, with that, this concludes today's webinar. I want to thank Joe for sharing today and Datalogics for sponsoring the event. I want to remind everyone to go to the Explore website often. On it, you're going to find updates on our programs, upcoming events, and the many other resources we have available. We will be continuing the education that we had at Explore 19 throughout the summer and into the fall with the Exploration Tour. Tentative stops include Dallas, Toronto, Minneapolis, and Atlanta, with Toronto starting us off next month, July 17th. So you can check out explore.org/tour for the most up-to-date information as it is announced. Thank you all, and we will now disconnect.